Starting out good. Hold on. I just moved the desk. Hold on. You hit go because you're thinking, hey, if I tell everybody I'm doing a special show at 9, maybe it ought to start at 9 and not 9:04. All right. Is this good? How are we? All right. Hold on. Watch. We'll do this. Forget all of this is happening. This is not part of the show. This is a special show. Come on. We always have these kind of little things. Hold on. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right, everybody. Welcome in to the High Noon Report, a very special edition of the High Noon Report because it isn't high noon. No, it isn't. It's actually 9 o'clock. So we're going to be calling this one here. What do we got? We got a new name for it. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's not Dead People, Heaven or Hell. It's the Night Report. That's right, the Night Report. Now, I know it's very confusing. Monday through Friday at high noon, I typically do a show called High Noon. High Noon with me, Pugs Moran. It's all the day's headlines, current events, hot topics, trends, whatever it is that's happening in the world. I compile a list of all the things people are buzzing about, and I present them starting at 12 p.m. every day. It's a stream of consciousness rant on all of the different things that are happening in the world. Now, these are never political. We're not a political thing. If you're looking for politics, if you're looking for something like, that's not what we do here. What we do is we do talk radio the way it is supposed to be. Over the fence talk radio, the kind of stuff that you end up spending, a half hour at the end of your driveway talking to your neighbor about. That's the kind of stuff that we're attempting to do here. And we do it every Monday through Friday at noon. It's a chaotic time around here. So there are going to be a few days where I can foresee in the future where possibly the High Noon show will be interrupted. And if that is the case, then I will do this. I will do something later in the evening. And by the way, this is a Friday night. I'm hoping to see some new people. I'm hoping that we get. Look, you know how much I love you. I'm talking about my chatters, my daily chatters, and I'm seeing a lot of you here. Yeah, maybe a different time collects a different group of, baseball cards. What kind of metaphor was that? Was that even a metaphor? That's my sidekick, schizophrenic me. He's the voice inside my head. You hear him sometimes shout off mic when, he disagrees with what I'm actually saying. He lives in my head and he tells me every brilliant idea I've ever come up with is absolute horse garbage. And he's schizophrenic me. So we try to ignore him. How is everybody? Who do we got? Whitney. Hi, Whitney. Hi, Byron. Hi, Al. Jeff is here. Jeff was busting my balls earlier. Jeff was like, what the hell, man? I got to work. Let me tell you something, Jeff. Oh, man, that seriously touched me. That seriously touched me. I've been doing talk radio since 1992. And, okay, here's what it was. He wasn't trying to be sappy. I think he was just being honest. He showed real regret that the show he listens to at noon or watches or whatever it is while he gets through his work day is not going to be on. His day, his pattern, his habit, his routine has been interrupted. Understandable that might make somebody go, but it is not lost on me, my guy. It is it's very nice. That makes me feel like, because I'm just a crazy middle-aged man shouting into a microphone for a couple of hours every day. But when people are actually, appreciative and they say they like it and all that stuff, and and I know you do. I mean, some of you guys, what Byron doesn't like this? Byron may not like me. Byron likes this. Byron's here every day. You guys have been fantastic. And it's the reason I've been doing this for 2 years now. Yes, we have crossed that 2-year line. I don't know when though. I don't know. I've never been big on anniversaries. I don't really, I live in the moment most of the time. I'm a fatalist. Everybody knows that I got the depression that creeps in sometimes. So, I'm pretty much not good on anniversaries. I don't think there's anything personally to be gained from me from marking the passage of time and, talking about regrets and that's all right. Onward and upward and stay positive. Meet cynicism with optimism. That's what I always say. And that's what we try to do on this show. So as you guys get comfortable and fill in, it's going to be kind of like a normal show. It's going to be basically a normal show. If you are familiar with the noon show, same pattern tonight, A little quicker. We're going to be a little quicker. I don't know if we'll go 2 hours. I really don't. It's Friday night. Come on, guys. By the way, it's Friday night, and you guys know what I'm watching? And you shouldn't tell them that. You shouldn't tell them why you're going to rush through this show. See, that's schizophrenic me. So I'm not saying I'm going to rush through the show because I love doing it. But when the show is naturally over because I feel it's run its course, I am going to go into the other room. And I don't know if it's Netflix. I don't know if it's HBO Max. I don't know if it's Hulu. A lot of help you are. See? But there is a new docuseries about Florida, University of Florida during the Tim Tebow and mostly Urban Meyer age. I started watching I got about 20 minutes into the first episode last night, and I'm like, okay, say no more. I'm like, I know what I'm doing this weekend. So if you're watching that, it's very good. There's a lot of good sports documentaries now. I mean, there's a lot of them good. The Johnny Manziel one was really good. That came out just a couple of weeks ago. There's another one about Balco. I think these are all a part of that Netflix 30 for 30 knockoff Untold. We're not 30 for 30. You know, they're like I would say, no, actually I can't say. I was going to say they're like a poor man's 30 for 30, but they're not, because Untold are actually very good. There's a lot of really good ones, but it's the same thing. So yeah, that's what I'm watching. I'm watching the takedown of the Urban Meyer years at the University of Florida when they were good. Okay. So that's why I'll probably be rushing through this. What else do I want to tell you about? Oh, you guys. Okay. I'll bring you up to speed since we talk about this a lot because I can't help it. Dad brags. Okay. So, we missed last night's Radio Misfit show. The Radio Misfit show, we're supposed to do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But James, who's my co-host on the Radio Misfit show, he hoodwinked me into doing Dean Lewis's comedy class at the Improv, and I love it. And it's on Monday nights, and so we don't do shows on Monday nights for the next couple of weeks. We'll resume those. That's the plan. And then last night we missed the show because, as you know, my young son, is now a Texas high school football player. It's official. Played in the very first game of his Texas high school football career. And I'm going to tell a story because it is the thing that I am most proud of about my son. And he like, if he was listening right now, he would probably, and he's not, but if he were, he would probably be like, no, don't tell the story. But I was never prouder. And I know that his mom was as well. He played in his first high school football game. And, he played his first introduction to football. The first few years he played for the Plano Park District, and they were very good. His team was very good. And he got selected for an elite team. And, it was like they were already scouting him. He's got all the, it's crazy here in Texas. But then he went to middle school, and he decided that he didn't want to play for the Plano system anymore. And instead he wanted to play with his friends at his middle school's team, because his middle school had just recently formed a football team. So he went and he played there. And for 2 years, they did not win a game. They were terrible. And it was heartbreaking because he came from, a system, a Park District system that is very good. I mean, the Plano Youth Football Park District system is probably one of the best in the country, certainly one of the biggest. And he was on a team that won it, a good team. So anyway, fast forward, he's now going to high school, and he plays for this high school team. He's on the freshman team, and he's the center. And it's the starting center, just to be clear, the starting center. And yesterday was his first game. And boy, oh boy, was it awful. First of all, let me tell you, Dad, oh, do you know how much I sweated out there last night? Why are they playing games? And first of all, the game was supposed to start at 8:15. Scratch that. Originally, it was supposed to start at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But because it was 112 at 5 o'clock, they're like, let's push it to 8 when it'll be 110, right? It's like, oh, God, thanks. Big difference. So by the time I get there at 8 o'clock, and by the way, it's very far away. I drive for an hour. By the time I get there at 8 o'clock, the game has been pushed back again. Now the game is going to start at like 9:30, so we can get out there forever. So anyway, the game finally starts. It's 105 now. Oh, and I am sweating, man. I am telling, look at me, this guy, oh my God, I am sweating. And I'm not wearing like, hey, you're going to be standing outside, in 110-degree weather type clothes. I'm not. I'm wearing, hey, you might meet somebody who's, friends with your son or their mom or a teacher. Right? So I'm dressed. I'm nice. I look nice. I look like, I don't look like, as James would say, a broke 19-year-old, which is how he described me recently, I think. Something like that. So here's my story of resilience. And maybe this is something that we can all learn from, huh? So my kid is a football meatball. He loves football, and he knows he's good. He is good. He has been playing on very bad teams, and he's been a good leader, and he's been I've been so proud of him for that. But today was a big day. Very excited. We've been counting down the days to this. It was his first official Texas high school football game last night. He lines up. He's starting center. His team comes out onto the field. It's their ball. The very first play, I'm filming it. The very first play of his high school football career. He snaps the ball to the quarterback, and it goes straight into the dirt. Bounces around. They're all chasing it. By the time the dust settled, literally, it is now 2nd down and 22. It's like, oh, and I'm looking at my boy, right? And this is why I'm telling you about resilience. And I'm looking at my boy, and I'm like, okay, he can handle this. And I could see he's like shaking his head, he's like trying to get himself out of it. He's standing in place and doing a little jumping. And I'm like, here comes my boy. This is going to be great. 2nd and 22, second snap. He snaps it. Goes sailing over the quarterback's head. Now it's bouncing around down near the end zone. Everybody's going crazy. And I am dying inside. I am absolutely dying inside. Because, he's your boy. I'm not dying because I'm embarrassed. I'm not that dad. I'm not like, get your head out of your ass. I'm not that dad. I'm dying because I know how much it means to him. And I know how unbelievable. Okay, so now it's 3rd down and 40, let's say. And they're pinned back. They are operating from the depths of their own end zone at this point. 3rd play of the season. We hadn't won a game in the previous 2 seasons. This ain't looking good. The offense rattles off like a 50-yard pass. Just like picks up the 1st down, and everybody is celebrating. We're like, yeah! Hold that thought. Flag on the play. Holding offense. And it wasn't my kid. No, it wasn't my kid. My kid didn't hold. If it had been, it'd been, Now, here's the story of resilience. They kicked to the other team. The other team just matriculates it. They played. The other team had like 30 yards to go to a touchdown when it was all said and done. The other team scores a touchdown. It's 8-0. First quarter, we're like, oh, my God. My boy's offense comes out for the 2nd time. And let me tell you something. My kid, I'm thinking in my head, if I'm this coach, I am benching my son. If I am this coach, I have just seen my son has not let up one pressure all season. He is not allowed a sack. He buries everybody. Everybody's blogging. He buries him in the dirt. He had an unbelievably inspired game last night. And his team went on to win 37-8. The other team never got another 1st down, the entire team. And my son's team never had to punt. But he didn't care. That's what I mean about resilience. He didn't care, man. He's coming off a team that didn't win a game in 2 complete seasons. He is now looking at the clean slate. Half the team are guys that played with him on that team that didn't win a game. They are, like I said, clean slate. Here we go. Had Texas high school football. Rah, 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 rah. And on the very first 2 plays, my son costs his own team, 35 yards. Weak children would have let that define them. And my son didn't let that happen. And that's why I am so proud of him. He came back and he played an unbelievable game. He destroyed anybody that tried to get near his quarterback. It was inspiring. And it was inspiring because I've known him. And I know that he has a tendency to get all up inside in his fields. And he didn't let that happen. So there you go. That's why there was no show last night. So I apologize if I went on and on. But that was a pretty big moment for us, or for me last night anyway. I saw my little meatball football player. Speaking of that, we're going to talk about some meatball football stuff coming up here on the show because there's big breaking news concerning meatball football issues, and we're going to get to it. But let's get started with the show. It is the Night Report. That's right, a little bit different. This is a look back at today and all the news stories that defined it. Today has been the 237th day of the year. There's 128 more of these in the calendar till we get them New Year's Eve plans started. All right, let's move into a segment of the show here that I like to call Erstwhile on This Day. This is where we go through the history of today. We just skim it really quick. We look for maybe things that happened that also happened today, patterns, rhythms, that kind of thing. On this day in 1814, day 2 of the burning of Washington, British troops torched the Library of Congress, the United States Treasury, the Department of War, and other public buildings. Let's see. And the indictments that followed, folks, I'll tell you. Okay, that wasn't a joke. That wasn't funny. Okay, on this day in 1944, during World War II, Paris is liberated by the Allies. We see this depicted a lot, the Paris Liberation Day. This is, very nice. A bunch of Parisian women giving it up to American and Allied forces just for very, very good day. Very good day to be a United States Army man. In this day in 1958, the world's first publicly marketed instant noodles, ramen, are introduced. Happy birthday, ramen. I love ramen. Look, man, I love all the dirtbag foods. I love the ramen. I love the Spam. I love the Sunny D. Yeah, that's right. All of them. Long John Silver. No, I'm kidding. I hate Long John Silver. But man, happy anniversary ramen. Do you know the kind of stuff that I can do with ramen noodles? Do you know what kind of stuff, as a middle-aged broke man, do you know the kind of dishes that I have whipped up using ramen noodles as the base? My kid will tell you. He'll tell you they're all terrible because he thinks I'm a bad cook. But quite frankly, I enjoy my cooking. I'll tell you this. Here's a little trick for you. I like to use the ramen noodles, but not the chicken sauce and no water. Like, you don't use that. You just cook the ramen noodles. I like to use those with spaghetti sauce and then just pour like some Paul Newman's, like really good chunky spaghetti sauce over the ramen noodles instead of the big stupid. You want to know why? I hate the big stupid noodles. I hate the big stupid long spaghetti noodles that you got to cook a weird way and half of them are hanging out of the pot. I'm not OCD, but if I were, that would drive me insane. And I bet it does. Ramen noodles, man, I love them. They're better. Ramen noodles are better and probably cheaper. I don't know. Don't you get like 10 of them for like a quarter? On this day, ramen was introduced. On this day in 2001, American singer, I should probably take it down a bit. American singer Aaliyah died. Remember when Aaliyah died? And several members of her record company are killed as their overloaded aircraft crashes shortly after takeoff from Marsh Harbor Airport in the Bahamas. On this day in 2005, Hurricane Katrina made landfall in Florida. Stay tuned. Let's see. On this day in 2017, Hurricane Harvey makes landfall in Texas as a powerful Category 4. Strongest hurricane to make landfall in the United States since 2004. I don't remember Harvey. I was here. Did we? I remember, obviously Katrina. But Harvey, was it? I remember Rita. I remember Hurricane Rita. I don't know. I remember Harvey. It was a big one, though. It was a big one. All right, that's going to do it. See, those are the big things that happened in this world. Let's do some birthdays here. Talk about people who were born on this day. Buona, buona, buona. They say it's their birthday. I don't have rights to any music, so I have to sing stuff from time to time. How about this? Born on this day in 1918, Leonard Bernstein. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. God. Nobody cares about this guy. I'm tired of this. Bradley Cooper and his prosthetic nose making a movie that nobody wants to see this movie. Who wants to see Bradley Cooper with a fake nose doing a weird... It's like, his accent is weird. I don't know what he's doing. It's the mid-Atlantic. It's that like sort of snooty, sort of, that kind of thing. That rich people kind of snooty. It's called the mid-Atlantic. He's doing that, but it's doing it almost like he's got coke nose. It's just a weird. I don't want anything to do with Leonard Bernstein. But it's his birthday. He was born on this day in 1918. Born on this day in 1930. How about some Sean Connery action for you? Oh, it's fantastic, Miss Mooneypenny. I love Sean Connery. You know what? Sean Connery, lucky he dead, because Sean Connery would not have survived Me Too. Sean Connery died in 2020. It may have been Me Too that killed him. Born on this day in 1930. Born on this day in 1931, Regis Philbin. Regis Christ. Regis Christ. He's saved. He's the savior of ABC. ABC was in such bad states in around 1999, year 2000. ABC was awful. Nobody was watching ABC. ABC sucked. They were so desperate that they put a game show on in prime time. Regis Christ. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire saved ABC. And it started that entire, hey, let's put game shows out in prime time, which followed for a bunch of years. You know, The Weakest Link, you know, all those things. Anyway, Regis Philbin, Regis Christ, savior of ABC television networks. Born on this day in 1931. Born on this day in 1933, Tom Skerritt. He's like a cool guy. He's a cool guy actor, but he was Viper in Top Gun. Remember, he was like their boss. Not their boss. Their commanding officer, I guess. I'm Viper. All right, bug out. Viper was cool. Tom Skerritt's cool. Happy birthday. Is he dead? Let's see. Am I about to be sad? Nope, he's alive. Good for him. Born on this day in 1939, Tom Skerritt. Viper. Top Gun. All right, born on this day in 1939, John Badham. Couple of things you know about me. One, you know that I'm a really good judge of character. Two, a legend at mini golf. And three, I love my film directors. And John Badham is one of them. So from time to time when we get a person whose birthday or maybe they passed away and I have a specific interest in them, I like to do a thing we call the draft. That's right. That's where we look at their entire body of work. If it's an actor, we'll pick the 5 favorite movies. If it's a director, as it is in this case, we'll take the 5 movies that I think are his best and we'll draft them in order 1 through 5, 1 representing the most desired choice and 5 also being important. All 5 are good. I don't know why I had no way to end that rant right there. That was a rant. That was, what was that? A ramble? Yes, thank you. Schizophrenic me. That was more of a ramble than a rant. Need another drink. All right, so John Badham. Who's John Badham? Oh, I think I've heard of him. John Badham was awesome. So here we go. Let's do an NFL-style draft of the works of director John Badham. Here we go with the first pick off the board. I am going with one of my favorite movies of all time, a movie that I must watch every 5 years. Strangelove is my number 1. Goodfellas is right there in it. Lolita, also from Kubrick, is right there in the area. Facing the Crowd, Ilya Kazan is in there. But boy, oh boy, we're not getting out of the top 5 without talking about Saturday Night Fever. Saturday Night Fever, the number 1 pick in the John Badham draft. Director of Saturday Night Fever. Sort of the director. It's a complicated story, but he still gets credit. He's involved and he took all the credit and he became the guy synonymous with it. John Badham, Saturday Night Fever. Saturday Night Fever is... Okay, so I grew up at a time when I was a very little kid. I was like 6, 7, I don't even know, whenever Saturday Night Fever came out. I was little. And it was everywhere. And it was just such a grown-up thing. And it didn't interest me at all. And I thought it was stupid. And then at some point, I think I was a teenager. And I may have caught it once on like HBO, or something like that. And I was floored by it. I was floored by how good the movie is, because in American popular culture, the culture of disco, which by the way didn't age well, it was seen as cheesy and over the top and a bit indulgent and all that. The brand perception of disco has kind of ruined, I think, the brand perception of that film. That film is Oscar caliber on every level. Saturday Night Fever is an epic story about dudes in Brooklyn trying to get laid. That's all it's about. It's fantastic. Number 1 pick off the board, Saturday Night Fever. Come on, you guys. That scene on the Brooklyn Bridge. Oh, and what they do to Angie. Remember Angie? Remember in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a sitcom called Angie, and she was a waitress? Right. Well, before she was Angie in the sitcom Angie, she was like the hua in Saturday Night Fever. She was like the hua. There's a scene where like these guys were the hero. Oh my God. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Saturday Night Fever. Here's a little strange thing. You want to talk about progress and how people have changed. So there is this scene in Saturday Night Fever where Angie from the sitcom plays the neighborhood hooer, and all the boys take her out, and they all take their turns having sex with her. And she's totally down for it. I mean, she's depicted as being, come on, who's going to take me fast? You know, she's like totally into it. And they basically all just kind of, I mean, by today's standard, rape. But I'm watching it in this movie, and it's like, oh, so that's what a promiscuous woman is. That's what a promiscuous girl is, and how a boy or a group of boys might take advantage of her. And then at the end of the scene, where she breaks down because it's revealed that she really only had sex with everyone else because she thought it would make John Travolta like her. And you see the desperation, and then you stop going, oh my God, it was an awful, it was just a neighborhood hooer being taken advantage of by the boys, the way, you know, we've been told has occurred in time forever. No, not just that. This is like just a broken woman of really shallow character who is hit rock. Oh God, is it powerful? Anyway, that's Angie from the sitcom Angie. So, Saturday Night Fever is amazing. Number 2 in the John Badham draft, Bingo Long and his Traveling All-Stars. That's right, I'm a big baseball head. This was a baseball movie that I used to watch. I don't know, it would come on like late at night, like 10:30. Richard Pryor was in it. That's all I remember. It's a baseball movie. I remember I love it. When I saw the name, I went, I used to love that movie. Don't really remember what it's about. Richard Pryor was in it. Number 2, Bingo Long and his Traveling All-Stars. Number 3 in the John Badham draft, the number 3 pick. 3 pick overall. Gotta be, right? Do you want to play? War Games! War Games! War Games, man. Come on. War Games was awesome. Do you want to play? Number 4. How about this one? Gonna tug at your heartstrings a little bit. Short Circuit. Number 4 off the board. John Badham draft, Short Circuit. Number 5, Blue Thunder. Yeah, Blue Thunder, Roy Scheider. Who else was there? Blue Thunder was such a cool movie, they made a terrible TV show out of it. Blue Thunder was about a pervy helicopter. Do you remember that? That's how they sold it. It's Blue Thunder. It was all about police surveillance and about how LA had this like helicopter that they flew around at night, and they looked in rich people's windows and watched them having sex. Blue Thunder. It was cool. The movie's awesome because John Badham's awesome. All right, that does it. Oh wait, did we get to that? Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5. Number 1, Saturday Night Fever. Number 2, Bingo Long and his Traveling All-Stars. Number 3, War Games. Number 4, Short Circuit. Number 5, Blue Thunder. That concludes the official board draft of John Badham films. However, we are going to invite some players, some teams, some movies to summer camp. That's right. Undrafted free agent camp invites are going out to John Badham's Stakeout. Remember Stakeout? Richard Dreyfuss and Emilio Estevez? That was funny. Remember Stakeout 2? Isn't that the one where they stuck Rosie O'Donnell in there and we all thought she was hysterical because that was before we were all programmed to hate her? Yeah. Well, I don't know about program. She did do some things, and now that I remember that maybe brought it on herself. I don't know. Stakeout 2. At any rate, I remember it being an enjoyable movie. And I've been rethinking Rosie O'Donnell because I'm watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm just randomly watching episodes. And an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm popped up where Rosie O'Donnell was like hating on Larry. And I thought she was really funny. And I'm watching it. Man, she's funny. This is funny. Like, why do we hate her again? And I was like, oh, yeah. All right. Also coming to camp. How about Bird on a Wire? Remember that? Goldie Hawn, Mel Gibson, Bird on a Wire. Point of No Return is getting a camp invite from the John Badham draft. Point of No Return. That was some of you folks you don't even know. You don't even know from Bridget Fonda. There was about a 18-month, 2-year period where Bridget Fonda was like the. Do you know what Molly Ringwald was to like 80s kids? Okay. She was like that to like grunge people. Like Bridget Fonda. She started in this movie. Bridget Fonda was, Jane Fonda's niece, Henry Fonda's granddaughter, Peter Fonda's daughter. One of the Fondas. She was hot. I'm trying to say she was very hot for like 2 years. And then, I don't know. She went away. I saw pictures of her recently. She ain't acting. She ain't coming back. I'm just saying that. She looks like she's been living in Akron for the last 30 years. I'm just saying, she doesn't look like she's a Hollywood actress anymore. But she was good in Point of No Return, about an assassin. All right, there you go. That concludes our John Badham draft on this, his birthday, born on this day in 1939. Couple more birthdays. Gene Simmons. Oh, this guy. Yeah, kiss Gene Simmons. Oh, this guy. What are we going to do with this guy? He's so hard to take. I find him so irritating. Let me tell you something. The reason you find me irritating is because I am the embodiment of everything you wish you were. That's Gene Simmons. That's his entire... Oh, God. Yikes, this guy. All right, born on this day in 49, Gene Simmons. Ugh. Born on this day in 1951. How about Rob Halford? That's right, Rob Halford, Judas Priest. I got no hot takes on Judas Priest. I wasn't really a big Judas Priest fan. You know, I was more like into like I don't know. I was in other kinds of music. You know, the dudes were into Priest, man. Priests. Judas Priest. You know, they were like really like hardcore, uber masculine. I just, you know, but I'll tell you this. I wasn't surprised when Rob Halford came out. I'm like, that checks. That tracks. What do you mean, man? You've been looking at this band for the last... Same goes for Queen. Wasn't surprised. Let's see here. What else do we got here? Born on this day in 1954. How about this guy? I like this guy. Elvis Costello. Yeah. Okay. Here's a fun fact. Elvis Costello is not his real name. His real name is Declan McManus, I think. Is that it? Declan, something like that. Elvis Costello was a stage name that was chosen because he was trying to break through in America, and he just did a little naming exercise for himself where he made a list of the most important American icons of his life. Like he was trying to make sure that he would be appealing to an American audience. So in order to do this, he knew that the name Declan McManus, that sounded a little bit European. He wanted to basically, you know, make people not think he was American, but, you know, kind of stoke in Americanism with his name. And it was just him trying to get noticed. And so he made a list of all of these American cultural icons, and he one by one started knocking them down. And I don't like that one. I don't like that one. And he came down to Elvis Presley and Abbott and Costello. And that's where Elvis Costello comes from. Yep. That's where it comes from. Elvis Costello. Happy birthday. Born on this day. Born on this day in 1954. Yeah, there you go. Born on this day in 1958. How about Tim Burton, filmmaker extraordinaire? Yeah, we're going to do a Tim Burton draft. Tim Burton draft! All right, just as we did for John Badham, we'll quickly run through the top 5 Tim Burton films, according to me. We'll do it in the style of an NFL draft. Let's begin with the first pick. In the Tim Burton filmography draft, we're going with Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Yeah, and not just because Pee-wee just died. Now we're going with Pee-wee's Big Adventure because that's a great movie. Number 2, we're going to go with Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is number 2 off the board. Another great movie. Fun fact, he's currently producing a Beetlejuice 2. Don't know if he's directing it, but I do know that he's producing it. Number 3 off the board, we're going with Batman. Batman. Remember Prince did that Bat Dance song? Bat Dance. It was like, what is Prince doing? And it still slaps, though. That is still, you know how I know that song is great? Okay, it was cheesy because it was tied in with the movie. And then because it was tied in with the movie, it was on like every other video on MTV. And it just became like a cartoon of itself. And it just seemed very uncool for Prince. Bat Dance. Big hit. Here's how I know it still slaps. Because my 14-year-old son heard it. My 14-year-old son heard it while Spotify was just throwing out these random songs because I got a lot of Prince in there. Anyway, and he heard it and he's like, "This is Prince?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I go, "It's themed to a Batman song." And he's like, "Man." He's like, "All right." And he was like bobbing his head. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You can tell it's Prince." And I'm like listening to it and I'm like, I'll be damned, you can. I mean, I know it's Prince, but I mean, he can. He's listening, he's hearing. Not born on this day. Batman, number 3 off the board. Number 4 off the board in the Tim Burton draft, we're going to go with Edward Scissorhands. That movie was unnerving, but it was good. It was good. See, the fact that it was unnerving means it did something, and that's what they're supposed to do. Not forgettable. Number 4 off the board is Edward Scissorhands. Number 5 is Ed Wood. Ed Wood. You guys remember Ed Wood? Johnny Depp played film director Ed Wood. Ed Wood was a movie maker in the 1950s, and he was I mean, back then he described himself as both a transhuman, because he was a dude who wore a dress and he would direct films in dresses. I mean, back then they called him a transvestite. I don't know what that is anymore based on the current definitions. They're always changing. They seem very fluid. Whatever. It's all fine. It's all fine. Ed Wood went to work every day in the 1950s wearing a dress. And people were like, "What's up, Ed?" And he was like, "Hey, how are you? Didn't shave today, Ed, did you?" "No, I'm thinking about growing a beard." But he was still wearing a nice poodle skirt. And I'm not kidding. Ed Wood was a real guy. Do you remember the movie? See the movie. See the Tim Burton movie. It stars Johnny Depp. Ed Wood. It's very good. That's number 5. So the Tim Burton draft: Pee-wee's Big Adventure, followed by Beetlejuice, followed by Batman, followed by Edward Scissorhands, followed by Ed Wood. But of course, we do have some people we're going to bring in for look-sees during camp. Undrafted free agents coming to the Tim Burton camp. Here we go. Batman Returns. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. Those Batmans weren't good. Yeah, they were. I was there. And I remember they were good. And I remember everyone saying they were good. So shut up. But the Dark Knight, Nolan reinvented the whole... Oh, shut up. Would you let Gen X have their Batman, for crying out loud? You guys turned our TV Batman into a punchline. You won't let us have... Michael Keaton does weather pretty well, though. I have noticed that. For instance, my 14-year-old son ranks Michael Keaton as his second favorite Batman, which I don't think is necessarily him pandering to me. I think it's legit. Michael Keaton's a cool Batman. I'm Batman. That's him. That's him. He was the first guy. Now they all do it, but that was him who delivered it first. When I hear that in my head, it's Michael Keaton. Also coming to camp, Mars Attacks. Remember that? That was a weird Tim Burton movie, but people liked it. It'll come to camp. I didn't like it in the time. Maybe I see it again. I'll like it again. I don't know. Or like it for the first time. Planet of the Apes. Is this the Wahlburger Planet of the Apes, the Wahlberg ones? I don't know. Still love them. Like I said, I'm Gen X. I grew up in the 80s. Watching movies made in the 70s. I am a Planet of the Apes freak. More, please. Tim Burton did a movie called Big Fish. Very sweet movie. And also coming to camp, Charlie and the Chocolate Family. The Chocolate Family. What are you going, race? No, what? No, don't even. What do you mean? I said Charlie and the Chocolate Family. I mean Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I don't know. All right. That concludes our Tim Burton draft. All right. Born on this day in 1966. That's right. 1967. I'm sorry. That's right. We have more birthdays. Born on this day in 1967. Oh my God. He's a dude. He's such a dude. Ladies and gentlemen, happy birthday. One of my heroes, Jeff Tweedy. Jeff Tweedy. Oh. I maintain that Casino Queen might be the finest song ever written. I'm just saying. Jeff Tweedy, lead singer of course. Well, I mean, Wilco, certainly most widely known as the driving force behind Wilco. Prior to that, was it? I get confused. Yes, it was Uncle Tupelo. And then Uncle Tupelo was such a cool band around about 1991. I know I'm a big fan of like white trash garage rock from the Ozarks, and that's kind of what this is. There was a scene down there. There was a scene in Missouri, and because of its proximity to Chicago and the Chicago clubs, when a band would start to get really big in the scene in Missouri, they would come to Chicago, and there were bands like Uncle Tupelo, the Bottle Rockets. Excuse me. I think who else did I see? I saw this bill with it was Southern Culture on the Skids, Bottle Rockets, and Uncle Tupelo. Anyway, so that was a scene. So Uncle Tupelo was big. They broke up because they couldn't get along. And then two bands were formed out of that. Sunvolt, who had a couple of hits. Sunvolt was a pretty cool band. But Wilco is what Jeff Tweedy made out of the wreckage of the old Uncle Tupelo. And Jeff Tweedy is a freaking god, man. I'm telling you. He's like, and by the way, Ron, he's one of those. All right, yeah, I will buy. Don't because he's a Chicago artist. I go, it's not just because he's a Chicago artist. It's just he's a great artist. And I was gonna say he's like iconic in like certain areas of Chicago. It's people all the time, dude. I saw Jeff Tweedy at Treasure Island. I'm like, what? You saw Jeff Tweedy at Treasure Island? Yeah, he was buying lettuce. It's like, cool. That's very cool. Born on this day in 1967, the great Jeff Tweedy. How does it describe him? American singer, songwriter, musician, and producer. Born on this day in 1968, Rachel Ray. Rachel Ray is a woman who I would say most guys look at and go, yeah. Here's the thing with Rachel Ray. Rachel Ray. Okay. So in Hollywood, there are basically only two kinds of women. There are the comedic ones who you would never want to be with, and the untouchable ones, you know, the sex bombs, the gorgeous ones who you could never get. Rachel Ray falls into this like category of, and I'm not talking about movies and TV. I'm just talking about as far as like being popular, where she's like gettable hot, you know, like there is a class of actress that is gettable hot, Meg Ryan, although Meg Ryan is Hollywood gettable hot. Meg Ryan is not gettable. You know what I mean? Meg Ryan, if you know, you worked with her at an accounting firm in Austin, you ain't getting, she's hot. But by Hollywood standards, you know, she wasn't a sex bomb. Rachel Ray is kind of like that. Rachel Ray is like, she's like really attractive. So she's appealing to men, but there's nothing about her that would stop a relatively confident guy from talking to her, right? Like Cindy Crawford, you might be like, I ain't talking to her. But Rachel Ray, she's got that. And that is something that advertisers look for, because that kind of woman doesn't upset the wife. And that, my friends, is the secret to Rachel Ray's success. Took a little while to get there, but that's what I was getting at. Born on this day in 1987, Blake Lively. I don't know Blake Lively from Lake Lively. I don't know who she. Here's what I know. She is Mrs. Ryan Reynolds, and I know that I love me some Ryan Reynolds, and I know that every time that I see her standing next to Ryan Reynolds, I sit there and I go, I approve, Ryan. She appears to be aesthetically appropriate for you. No, she's a beautiful woman. You ever seen this Blake Lively? I'm sure you have. I'm like an old man. I just don't know who she is. She's probably like super famous. I mean, I know she's famous, but isn't she like WB famous? Like, isn't she famous because she was on a show that was on like the CW? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like something like that. She's like that kind of famous. And guys, that's D-list. So Ryan Reynolds, however, her husband is like, so, okay. Now's where all the people are like, no, she did a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio 10 years ago. I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. I'm just saying, you know, Blake Lively is Blake Lively. I approve. As a matter of fact, I think I said this the other day. I have an ongoing list of my favorite celebrity couples. And you got your Dak Shepherds and your Christian Bells. You got your Mila Kunishes and your Ashton Kutchers. You got your Nick Offermans and your Megan Mullally's. I mean, they're out there, folks. If you look for them, there are some fun couples out there. I have recently added Ryan Reynolds and Miss Blake Lively, celebrating a birthday today. Born on this day in 1987. All right, here we go. Now let's move into some deads, okay? These are the people who've died on this day. We will be getting to we'll get to the trends. We'll get to all the things that happen. We'll talk about the big issues, but let's run through these. These are the people who have been pronounced dead on this day. We like to look at their lives and, well, we decide whether or not they're going to heaven or hell. If the chat room wants to play along, I'll talk about them for a little bit. You tell me if you think they're going to heaven or hell. Here we go. Let's start off. 1945, dead on this day, John Birch. Yeah, John Birch. Now, many people know about John Birchers and the John Birch Society and all that kind of stuff, so that might be conjuring up some, I don't know, very specific feelings in you. You might be all in your feels when you hear the name John Birch, but let me tell you about the actual guy, John Birch. Not the John Birch Society that was formed in his passing. He died on this day in 1945. John Birch was a United States military officer, and he was also a minister, I think he was a Lutheran minister. And John Birch was in Japan 10 days after the end of the war. He was there. He was doing official business. He was working in his role as an American liberator, if you will. And he was killed by Chinese soldiers, by communist Chinese soldiers. He was an American officer, and he was killed by Chinese soldiers. Some kind of dust up occurred. You know, they were both they were all mopping up after Japan quit, and China moved in from one side and America from the other. And John Birch was an American soldier, an American officer, I believe, American officer and a minister. Don't forget that, who was there doing what was essentially, and by the way, he wasn't, The John Birch Society became an incredibly provocative group, widely associated with far-right causes and stuff like that. Anti-communist in their origin, but over the years they've sort of morphed into, other people say, I don't really know, but this is their brand rep, right? So you might be thinking John Birch is going to heaven, but no, he's going to hell. Or he's going to, you might think he's going to hell. I think he's going to heaven. And here's why. He seemed like a really good, honorable, righteous guy. I mean, his whole story, his backstory. Remember, the John Birch Society is just a group that rose up after he was killed by communist China, because the John Birch Society had an agenda that was anti-communist. They were the big anti-communist lobbyists in America when communist mania was taking over the place. They took John Birch's name and they essentially called him the first victim of the Cold War. And that's what John Birch is known for. And he's not at all the guy. He might not have even joined the John Birch Society. That may not have even been his bag. He was a minister, and he seemed to be a pretty kindly guy. So I'm saying heaven on John Birch. What did you guys say? Byron says hell. Jeff Ballard. Okay, just Byron. Everybody else is just having their own conversations, and that's fine. That's what the chat room is for. I appreciate that. I like that. But I'm saying John Birch is going to heaven. They used his name. Born on this, or dead on this day in 1956. How about Alfred Kinsey? Ooh, he's the sexy time guy. Kinsey Report. Dr. Kinsey was the guy. Wasn't there a Showtime series? I never watched it. Should I watch it? I don't know. Is it good, or is it like... I don't know. So anyway, Dr. Alfred Kinsey, basically, nobody talked about sex before Kinsey. And Kinsey started doing all of these, real intensive research programs. University of Indiana, I think. Yeah, I think it was in University of Indiana. And, he was the first, like in the 1950s, to like be talking about, or 40s or whatever it was. I'm not even sure when. I think it was like 30s, maybe. I don't know. I have no idea really, but no one knew what homosexuality was. He studied it, and all kinds of sexual habits of married people. You know how none of us think that our grandma ever gave a blowjob. That's like just kind of something we think. They didn't do that back then. Well, Kinsey kind of proved different. Heaven or hell for Alfred Kinsey? I'm gonna go heaven. Out of science. Dead on this day in 1965, Moonlight Graham, American baseball player and physician. I don't know who Moonlight Graham is, but I think he's the guy that James Earl Jones is talking about in, what's that movie? Outfield from Heaven or something. Heaven Field? What is that? Field of Dreams. There you go. So Moonlight Graham, you go to heaven. Go ahead. I think you're the guy that James Earl Jones is going on and on about. I'm not sure, though. Dead on this day in 1967. Here's a name for you. George Lincoln Rockwell. Yeah. That was his name. He was born. He's got that on his birth certificate. It's legit. Dude probably had credit cards that said George Lincoln Rockwell. He died on this day in 1967. You know who he is? He's the founder of the American Nazi Party. He's going to hell. Sorry, George Lincoln Rockwell. I'm going to hang out and try and pretend who you are. No, he was a bad guy. He got drummed out of the army, like after World War II. He was a fighter pilot in World War II, and he got drummed out of the army because he was going around, we should have been bombing anybody trying to stop Hitler from killing the Jews. I mean, it was basically, you know what I mean? He was like kind of openly on the side of Nazism and he got dishonorably discharged. But then he founded the American Nazi Party, and there were a lot of people in America who joined, who followed George Lincoln Rockwell. I was about to say something that is a fact that, it's not talked about, but, we recently had a president whose father was close friends with George Lincoln Rockwell, is all I'm saying. George Lincoln Rockwell is going to hell. He's not a good guy, at all. Dead on this day in 1984. How about Truman Capote? Truman Capote. He's a little weirdo. He is weird. He's got, you know what, Capote, I'm sorry, but he probably went to hell. He hung out in that like New York artsy fartsy, like super stuck up, conceited kind of society where it's like, that he's in hell. Truman Capote, great writer. Don't get me wrong. Great writer. Fascinating and interesting individual, to be sure. He's going to hell, though. All right, Truman Capote, dead on this day in 1984. Dead on this day in 2009. This is what we call a preemptive. A little preemptive going to hell. On this day in 2009, Ted Kennedy died. Now, I know what you're saying. Hey, Pugs, you're an Irish Catholic. Weren't you raised to think of the Kennedys as infallible? Yeah. I mean, I was programmed to think that. But once I started thinking on my own, I was like, eh. And I came down on the side of, you know what? I actually like the Kennedys. I like Bobby Kennedy. I like JFK. I like all of their policies. I like the way they think. And I like Ted Kennedy, and I like a lot of the stuff that Ted Kennedy did. But the question on the table here, is he going to heaven or hell? And we all know that he killed a woman and ran away. He could have saved her, but he ran away. So I don't care what kind of laws or what kind of vision he had for America. He may have done a lot of good. He may have gotten some things passed that helped a lot of people later in his life, but it's not enough, because we know that on that one night, Chappaquiddick, New York, or Massachusetts. I think it was New York. Anyway, we're just going to say Chappaquiddick. And then there was that one night in Chappaquiddick where married Ted Kennedy had Mary Jo Kopechne in his car. Now, you could say he was just giving her a ride home, but the Kennedy boys' relationship prowess precedes them. And I'm imagining that Ted Kennedy's wife probably wasn't aware he was out trucking around with Mary Jo Kopechne. Car crashes, goes into the water. Ted Kennedy frees himself and escapes and runs home. Daddy, what have I done? Doesn't never at any point give any thought whatsoever to young Mary Jo Kopechne, who he left to die. So, as I say, it doesn't matter what else he did. I have a different opinion. You know, you want to ask me about what I think of Ted Kennedy as a senator, as the Lion of the Senate. It's a much different conversation. But the question here is he going to heaven or hell? And he's going to hell. He's going to hell because in the moment, and there may be a moment when each and every one of us are tested and our morality is actually put to the ultimate test. And how will we react? We know how Ted Kennedy would react. We know what Ted Kennedy's morality is in the moment. A woman was dying and he didn't try to save her. He saved himself and he ran away. And then he wanted to lie about it. So there you go. Ted Kennedy. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, Ted. But faxism. Dead on this day in 2012. Now we're going to do a little preemptive going to heaven. Yeah. No doubt in my mind, this guy, but let's be honest about it. This man has already been to heaven. This is one of the only men, one of 12 men. Is it 12? I believe it's 12. One of only 12 men to be able to say that they actually went to heaven during their lifespan. On this day, Neil Armstrong died. Neil Armstrong, American pilot. I love this. It's like, I want American pilot, engineer, and astronaut. That's it. That's it. That's Neil, not Neil Armstrong, first man on the moon. Don't you think that? Sure, you put astronaut, Neil Armstrong, astronaut, first man on the moon. I don't think his engineering degree that is listed here rates. What? Who made that list? Hey, do you know he did something else too? That, Neil Armstrong, dead on this day in 2012. Obviously, I talk a lot about being born on July 20th, 1969, the day we landed on the moon. I have pretty much dedicated my life to being an obsessive fanboy of the Apollo missions, and especially the Apollo 11 crew. Neil Armstrong, personal hero of mine my entire life. I can tell you that on this day in 2012, I was really wrecked. On this day in 2012, I was very upset because here's the problem with worshiping Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong didn't want to be worshiped. Neil Armstrong was the coolest MFer in the world. When I say this all the time, I go, nobody who is cool thinks they're cool or even considers the idea that cool is a thing. That was Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong? Neil Armstrong could have been, God of the world if he wanted to. He was the most famous man on the planet for years. And why did that go away? Because he went away. Neil Armstrong wouldn't have been making TikToks. Well, Neil Armstrong wouldn't have had a Twitter account or a Facebook page or, been showing up on Fox News to talk about. Neil Armstrong was a dude, man. Neil Armstrong had an experience that by his own admission changed him foundationally. Going to the moon changed him. And when he came back here, he just wanted to live a different kind of life. Neil Armstrong, complicated guy, very complicated guy, moody guy, changed guy, but one of my favorite guys. I love and respect the principles. And, I'm a big principles guy. Neil Armstrong was a principal. He didn't want to be a celebrity for doing this. He recognized the danger. He recognized, it was, I've read a couple of biographies. And what is almost never discussed or even considered by people when we talk about these astronauts is that they almost all just assumed they were going to die. Right? So now we have the luxury of looking back at history. But when and we're like, oh, it's fine. Look at them. They're the right stuff. They're like gladiators. No, these guys had ulcers. These guys had the shits. These guys couldn't sleep at night. It was a big thing. And it was a big thing for their family. I don't know. He's a very fascinating guy. The whole experience changed him. Didn't want to be a celebrity. You know who did? Buzz. But Buzz loved it. Buzz went on the talk shows, and Buzz became Buzz Lightyear. He loves all that stuff. Not Neil. Neil Armstrong was like, nah, man. I'm just going to go back to the farm in Ohio. I'm going to teach a couple of courses on how to build airplanes at Ohio State. That's what he did. He just went back to Ohio and taught at Ohio State. Could you imagine 1972, 73, you get your new class schedule and you're like, oh, Professor Armstrong. What? It's like, I got the first man on the moon going to teach me about aerodynamics. Well, it's pretty cool. Neil Armstrong, dead on this day in 2018. Here's another one. Here's another one of my guys. Although I do not, well, no, God, I don't even need to say that. Dead on this day in 2018, John McCain. John McCain, in my estimation, is going to heaven. Man of principle, man. That is a man of principle. I supported him when he was running for president in 2008, right up until Palin. That was it. I was out. I mean, I was on the radio. Like, yeah, I don't know, man. I like John McCain. My partner Kelly, she was all about Obama, and everybody else on the show is about Obama. I'm like, man. You guys know who John McCain is? I mean, I don't believe in people just being given the top job, but if we are just given the top job to people, how about John McCain, who spent 7 years in a tiger cage and never spoke once? Oh, but that mythology has been upended because he went against Trump. And then remember, everybody suddenly he's not a man of principle. Suddenly he's not. John McCain was a great man. John McCain was a great man. Died in a very sad way, that's a bad one to get. All the C's are bad. He had a pretty bad one. I like John McCain. Don't like his daughter so much. His daughter's a bit of a blah, 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 blah. She could, shut it, baby. I don't know. John McCain was a cool guy. Here's something else you need to know about John McCain. John McCain was kind of an asshole. John McCain was kind of a loser. Like John McCain's early, like before his dad, who was an admiral and a very important guy in the Navy, before his dad finally cracked the whip on John McCain, he was getting drunk and getting into fights and getting thrown in the brig and all this kind of stuff. He had one of those moments. He had one of those George Bush stop drinking at 40 moments, and then he sort of grew up a little bit. Anyway, John McCain, dead on this day in 2018. I'm making the rules, so I'm saying he's going to heaven. Didn't vote for him, though. Sorry. Palin was a bridge too far for me. I'm like, wait, what? What? Who is this now? And then, she starts talking. It's like, nah. I will tell you this, though. I do remember my very first impression of Sarah Palin. When Sarah Palin was announced, maybe a day before. I think it was leaked the day before, but it was at the Republican convention. And John McCain was hemming and hawing and all this kind of stuff. And by the way, we know the story now about John McCain was forced. John McCain didn't want her, but it was, John McCain wanted Lieberman. John McCain wanted Joe Lieberman, the Democratic senator from Connecticut. John McCain wanted John McCain wanted to do a bipartisan ticket because John McCain understood the bullshit that was about to happen in this country. Yeah. So anyway, that's when I was out. But my very first impression of Sarah Palin, I think, was like a lot of you guys. I was like, who's this now? And I'm like, oh, damn, she's hot. Like my first thing, I remember thinking Sarah Palin was really hot, like man, she's hot. And then she started, and I was like, no, that's a boner killer to be sure. All right, that's going to do it, folks. That is birthdays, deaths, and all the events of today. All right, so let's move on to what some of the topics that we're going to get into, some of the things I'm going to rant about here. Now is the time in the show. That's right. You know, this time of the show where I like to pull you all aside and give you a little bit of the talk, a little bit of time, a little bit of life talk, a little bit of this is how things work around here. If you're new to the show, just before ignore it. If you're new to the show, please pay attention. This show, this non-divisive talk radio dream of mine, runs by your contributions. I'm going to leave it up there. You can see the Venmo and the Cash App. You want to drop a little something? Please help out the show. That's how we produce these shows. This show, the reason I'm so we got to do a show today is because of Cameron. This show is produced by Cameron. Nobody tipped the show yesterday. Cameron, I wake up this morning and Cameron hit it up this morning, $50. I usually don't say that, but Cameron, I want to take a moment and thank Cameron. Cameron does that every month. Cameron does that every month. Cameron does. So I just thank you, Cameron. When I woke up today, and today has been a hell of a day. I won't go into why it is, but it's been kind of crazy and chaotic, and it's the reason we didn't do a show at noon. But Cameron, thank you so much. This show is being produced by Cameron. So if you want to drop a little something, a little tip, doesn't have to be Cameron type money. Cameron's obviously out there, killing it in life. But isn't that nice? Isn't that nice to get a nice tip like that? And you're like, wow. As I say, treat me like I'm your bartender. Treat me like I'm your pizza guy, whatever it is. Drop a little something if you feel so inspired. It sure would be appreciated. All right, let's get into today's news, okay? First and foremost, these are all the things, trending topics, hot stuff, all that stuff. These things already happen. Typically, when we do the show at noon, we talk about things that maybe we're looking forward to happening later in the day, or this is a little bit, it's almost like a look back at the things that occurred today. Here's the biggest thing that happened in my world. Let me tell you something. If you're a fan of sports Twitter, and by sports, if you're a fan of local team Twitter, oh, I love local team Twitter. If you're unfamiliar with what local team Twitter is, local team Twitter exists for every single team, regardless of the sport. Like Ranger, like hashtag Rangers or whatever. Local fans of the Rangers, that Twitter, anything with the hashtag Rangers or Go Rangers, awesome. Cowboys Twitter. Cowboys meatball Twitter is in full effect because the Dallas Cowboys today made one. I'm trying to process this. It's like, all right, so here's what happened. So the Cowboys acquired basically, for nothing, Trey Lance from the San Francisco 49ers. Trey Lance was the number 3 overall pick 2 years ago. Number 3 overall pick. The San Francisco 49ers, at the time Trey Lance was in the draft, moved up, 20 spaces. They gave away a boatload of picks, bunches of them at number 1, in order to move up to number 3 and draft Trey Lance, who was not from a big Division I. He wasn't a big, he was just one of these guys that some draft expert at some point said was going to be the next big thing. And all of a sudden, hey, who wants the next Josh Allen? Well, it's this kid, that kind of a thing. Man, the 49ers went all in on him. And here we are just a couple of years later with the rise of Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, right? Was he Mr. Irrelevant? Is that him, Brock Purdy? Or was he just not drafted? I don't know. I forget what his story is. But Trey Lance has been a bit of a bust. Trey Lance this week was beaten out for the second string quarterback for QB2 with the San Francisco 49ers by Sam Darnold. In reading the Niners, I was reading this earlier when this happened. I like to get, both fan sides. So I was reading some Niners stuff. And apparently the Niners and Niners Nation, they think he sucks. Like, I said on Twitter today, it's really nice because as a Chicago Bears meatball, and I am a Chicago Bears meatball. What is a meatball? A meatball is a fan who doesn't live in the real world and just loves it and goes for it. And he's like, we're going to win the Super Bowl. That's a meatball when your team sucks, right? That's what a meatball is. So I'm a Chicago Bears meatball. But when the Chicago Bears had the number 2 overall pick, number 1, I don't even know what it was. I think it was number 2, whatever it was. We took Mitch Trubisky, right? We took Mitch Trubisky. And that turned out to be a not so great draft pick. And in the years since, every Chicago Bear fan has had to live with the lament of, we could have had Mahomes. Well, I'm enjoying reading on Niner Twitter and all that. They've been saying this for months, though. So they are now, Niners are now, we could have had Fields. And of course, Fields is now on the Bears, and it feels like we've come full circle. We don't have to be ashamed that we didn't take Patrick Mahomes and went with Mitch Trubisky anymore, because at least San Francisco, they traded away a bunch of number ones. So San Francisco, they were not sold on Trey Lance, although young kid coming off an injury. We've never really seen him. We don't know what he is. The Cowboys, I think, pulled off a coup. I think this is amazing for the Cowboys. The Cowboys got him for a 4th-round pick. Now, what is it? Cowboy Meatball Twitter is going nuts. Cowboy Meatball fans. I heard one kid, they were having a conversation. They're like, they should use both of them. Both of them should be in the background at the same time, in the backfield at the same time. 2 quarterbacks. Nobody will know who to cut. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a great idea. As long as you're willing to lose 10 games in a row before they figure out this new offense and how it works, because that's what's going to happen. They're going to start doing crazy, new, innovative stuff. Dummies, sillies. Also, people like, trade Dak now. Are you out of your mind? See, now here's the difference. I tell you, I am a Bears meatball, which means I'm not rational. Shut up. You want to fight? I'll fight you. Shut up. They're going to win the Super Bowl, right? That's a meatball. I'm a Bears meatball. I admit that. I'm a Cowboy fan, and I'm not a Cowboy meatball. I'm a Cowboy fan, but the Cowboys are not the team that turned me into a meatball, because there is no childhood sentiment. The Bears are my team because I remember listening to the Bears with people who I care about who are no longer alive, right? So there is this thing. They mean something in my heart. Cowboys I just like because I've lived in Dallas all this time, and my son is a Cowboy meatball. My son is a Cowboy. So I can look at the Cowboys and see what they're doing. And I think, unlike the typical Cowboy fan or the typical meatball, I think I have more of a clear vision of what's going on. And I have to tell you, I called it a coup, getting Trey Lance for a 4th-round pick. I mean, I think the real coup is that, you've just embarrassed the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, the San Francisco 49ers must be, we gave up a bunch of firsts. We gave up a bunch of years of draft picks to move up to take this guy at number 3. And now 2 years later, we're trading him to the Dallas Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. Now, a 4th-round pick can be valuable, but a 4th-round pick is nothing like the number 3 overall, or not the number 3, a package of picks that the 49ers gave up for Trey Lance. So this is a bad moment for, now, what does it mean for the Cowboys? This is where my non-meatball eye comes in. Here are the things that upset me here. I'm a Dak guy. And because I'm not a meatball Cowboys fan, I neither think that Dak Prescott is the greatest quarterback who's ever played, nor the worst quarterback who's ever played. Because that's the 2 Dallas Cowboy meatballs. They either hate Dak or they love Dak. I'll tell you what I think of Dak. I think Dak's awesome. I think as a Chicago Bear fan, I'd love to have had Dak. I would love to have Dak. Years ago when Dak, before he signed the extension, they were talking about trading him. I'm like, Chicago, get him on the Bears. Dak Prescott is a great quarterback. Great. I use great. I don't mean great like, Johnny Unitas or Bart Starr like that. I mean, he's a very good quarterback. He's a very good, very effective quarterback. And the problems with the Cowboys over these past couple of years have had absolutely nothing to do with Dak. And I would argue that the whole reason your hearts have been broken is because Dak has been keeping this team competitive. I think the Dak hate and the Dak dragging is gross. Now, I don't like this, man. I don't like this. Just a couple of weeks back, Stephen Jones was on ESPN talking about how, our main priority is making sure that we can build a team that Dak can win with us for years to come. Like, they're totally committed to Dak. And now they're bringing in Trey Lance. That doesn't show Dak that it's his team. What it does is, now, is the argument, well, let's light a fire under his ass. Okay, that might work for some players. I don't know if it works for all players. Does it work for Dak? I don't know. Is that the kind of thing that motivates Dak? Does Dak need to be motivated? I don't think that he does. I think Dak has been great, man. Again, Dak is not the problem. So I understand that could be problematic. However, at the very same time, you could get Trey Lance for a 4. I mean, how do you not do? Cooper Rush is proven. You've got a backup who stepped in when Dak was hurt and won you some games. Proven guy. Trey Lance ain't proven. As a matter of fact, Trey Lance's stats in the games that he's played with San Francisco are absolutely awful. So, anyway, fascinating night. So, it says a lot about the Dak thing. Certainly it says that Jerry and Stephen Jones aren't sold on the idea that Dak Prescott is their quarterback of the future, because Trey Lance is young, super athletic, untested, with incredible upside. And who wouldn't do that for a 4? Now, is the cost Dak's mental stability? How stable is Dak? I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, that's what all of Meatball Cowboy Twitter is pearl clutching over right now. Except for the ones that are saying, trade Dak now. We could probably get a number 1. Stop it. Yes, that's it, Cowboy fans. You want to have a good season? Trade Dak right now, and you're going to be subtracting all that Dak could bring to the team and adding absolutely nothing, because that draft pick isn't going to be able to help you until next April, and even then, you're going to have to wait until the next season. So, nobody's trading draft picks for Dak. You want to go into the season with Trey? Who think this? Never mind. You can't argue with crazy on Twitter. What a trade Dak. You know who actually shared, or passed on, whatever you do on Twitter. Bob Sturm. Bob Sturm had a guy who said something very similar about, we should trade Dak now. And Bob Sturm's like, nope. And I'm like, yeah, no. What are you, an idiot? Yeah, probably was. All right, let's move on. We like to talk about ratings on this because it tells us a lot about what people are watching, especially ratings within the whole cable news world. So the ratings came out, and people were wondering, hey, did more people watch Trump and Tucker, or did more people watch, what is it? The debate, right? So that's the thing. Did more people tune in to watch the debate, or did more people tune in to watch Tucker and Trump? And it turns out that it wasn't even close. And apparently the debate won by hold on, let's see here. Fox News debate viewership blew Tucker's Trump interview out of the water is the headline. Let's see what the numbers are. The Fox News Republican debate on Wednesday night surpassed ratings expectations for an event that was missing the biggest audience draw of Republican politics, former President Donald Trump. Featuring 8 candidates polling far behind Trump, the first debate of 2024 campaign drew a solid 12.8 million viewers across Fox News and Fox Business. While those numbers didn't come close to Fox's record-breaking 2015 debate, they were far higher than what Fox News execs were hoping for. Let's see here. Instead of attending the debate, Trump opted for a buzzy bit of counter-programming, a 46-minute interview with erstwhile former. See, get it? Yeah? This is like we do the erstwhile on segment. Formerly on, previously on. I think they're using erstwhile. Come on. That's one of my favorite words. Instead of attending the debate, Trump opted for a buzzy bit of counter-programming, a 46-minute interview with erstwhile Fox News host Tucker Carlson. Let's see. That was on X. That was on Twitter. The platform formerly on Twitter 5 minutes before the start of the show in Milwaukee. Hold on. Give me the top. What's the number? As is tradition now, when Carlson drops a new interview on Twitter, his boosters boasted an astronomical viewership. As of this writing, Twitter lists the Tucker Trump confab as having a whopping 253 million views. Okay. 231 million views and still counting, Trump crowed on his social media. Just stop dragging political bullshit. Tell me the numbers. You said that Fox News won. So tell me the numbers. All right, never mind. The Twitter view metric, 253. I'm not getting into it. Never mind. You know what? We don't know who won. We still don't know who won. Get me started on bad journalism. Clickbait bullshit. That was Mediaite. That was like supposedly a real journalist writing that. Sorry. I don't care. I wasn't going to go through all that nonsense, that political vaguely agenda. Get out of here. Let's see here. The Department of Justice is apparently suing SpaceX for not hiring asylum seekers and refugees. what, I don't even know what that means. Like it's SpaceX, man. I mean, if you're like a refugee, like, you know, you're coming across the border with your donkey and your like Kroger cart filled with chickens, you think you're going to get a job at SpaceX? All right. Let's move on. Oliver Anthony, SpaceX. They're not hiring people who have snuck into the country. What? What are you talking about? It's SpaceX. How many cafeteria jobs can they have? How many janitor? And I'm not saying, yes, as a matter of fact, I am not going to apologize for thinking that an uneducated refugee fleeing some kind of Central American strife doesn't have the educational background to be hired at SpaceX. I'm going to say that. Go ahead, cancel me. All right. Speaking of canceling people, I got to tell you, I've about had it with this Oliver Anthony. In his hoodie. Now Oliver Anthony's trending again. Oliver, you know that guy, Rich Man, or the whatever. What, you know, the song of the summer. Tweeted that earlier today. A couple of weeks back, I'm like, hey, how come there's been no summer song this year? Like every summer there's a song. It's like, yeah, this is a summer song. I can't name any. Top Gun, right? I don't know. Go back to '86. Kenny Loggins, Top Gun. There's always a summer song. There is. We typically know it in the moment. Anyway, I mentioned, I go, there's no like song of the summer this year. Is that because radio has lost its power? That's what I was thinking. Well, it turns out there is a song of the summer, and it came about a week after I made that statement, my lament that there hadn't been a song of the summer. Oliver Anthony put out his little Richmond, North of Virginia song, and blah, 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 you know, everybody went crazy. And this is an interesting guy. He's giving an, I want to play something here. This is him talking again. Every time he opens his mouth, I go, yeah. I go, absolutely. I agree. This is a little interview that he gave. I don't know who this is. There's more of a story here, and we'll get to it. But I want you to hear him. Just want you to hear him once again, what he represents, what he stands for, because he's in a position where certain people with agendas that may not be his are trying to use him and his popularity. So here you go. Here's Oliver Anthony speaking again. Go.
It's like for the general public.
Yeah.
It's for people to, I guess, for one, to stop relying on someone 150 or 500 miles away from them to like solve their problems for them. Like nobody in Washington D.C., no one in the federal government's coming to save us. Like the people that are going to save us are each other. You know, local relationships. Like even families are torn apart. Like I made an example in one post about, and I've seen this in my own household at times, where you'll have a whole family under the same roof, and instead of them spending time with each other and caring about each other, every one of them sitting there just looking at their own piece of technology, like completely self-absorbed in that and not in each other. That's the real problem.
Yeah.
We're very disconnected from each other, just on a community level.
All right, there you have it. Oliver Anthony. Every time this guy says stuff, I nod my head and I go, yeah, absolutely. And the other day I called him Trojan Oliver Anthony. He's like a Trojan horse. He is, I was screaming at the stupid liberals out there who were like, I'm like, no, man, does nobody listen to lyrics? And by the way, all the people on the right who were like, he's one of us. No, he ain't. No, he really ain't. I don't think he's very. No, I'm not. Never mind. I don't think he. Yeah, I stopped myself there. Who am I to be speaking for him? But basically, here's his deal. I call him a Trojan horse because his message, what he is saying and what he is singing about, I don't think is what the people who are hearing and running with it think it's about. On the GOP debate stage, they played the song. I think they started the GOP debates by playing the song. And I think the question that they asked to all the candidates was, why do you think this song has resonated with the American public? And I think that's the wrong question they should have asked them. What they should have asked all of those politicians on stage, what do you think this song is about? I would have liked to have heard it, because I bet you not one of them would have gone, well, quite honestly, it's about us. It's about politicians and how we are manipulative and how we are lying. They didn't ask that question. They asked some BS, question that was a softball to allow these guys to get up there and go, I think it's about great America is and how if we can all just pull ourselves up and join, the bullshit, the jingoism. Anyway, his message, and I'm not talking about the song Richmond, North of Richmond, okay? That song's message is, I'll be redundant here with it, but the message of that song is that we shouldn't be looking to our political parties and hating our neighbor because we'll break. I was going to do this thing tonight. I have the lyrics here, and I was like, you know what? I don't think anybody listens to the lyrics. Let's go through these lyrics and let's talk about what the poet is saying, because there's a lot of words and some of it is very straightforward and it doesn't take a whole lot of analysis, but we won't do that. I did want to learn a little bit about him. He's from Piedmont and was raised in Farmersville, Virginia, and he wants everyone to know that it is not Appalachia. As of August 2023, Anthony lived in a $750 a month camper on an off-the-grid property where he said he one day intends to raise livestock. He's a 210 high school dropout at the age of 17 who later acquired his GED diploma. He worked in industrial jobs in North Carolina and Virginia. He worked at a paper mill in North Carolina. He had a work accident in 2013, which fractured his skull, leaving him unable to work for half a year. He worked in outside sales and manufacturing, visiting factories and job sites from 2014 through 2023. He wrote in a Facebook post. Anthony said in a video in August of 2023 that he is nonpartisan. Speaking of politics, he said, I sit pretty much dead centered down the aisle on politics and always have. Later that month, Anthony said he was bothered by others who wrap politics into his work. And that would be, basically what I'm saying is Richmond, north of Richland, isn't don't try this in that town or whatever. You know what I mean? It's not that same thing. It's not a Toby Keith anthem. It's not. It's more Springsteen than Toby Keith. It's more about the message in there and what he's trying to say. And honestly, what he's trying to say is, can we all just get along? As simple as that is. And he's trying to point out that you people are all carrying water for your political parties when it's their intention this whole time to keep us divided. That's what they want. They want us to see politics as a sporting event. They want Cowboys, Eagles. They want half of you to hate the others. Why? Because if we hate people who are in the exact same situation as we are, if we hate the people who are going through all the same things, then we never hang out and realize, hey, it's them we should be hating. That's the plan. So that's why politics is by design divisive. I'll say this too. Here's something that bothers me. Well, this really stuck with me. One of them guys, I don't remember what it was, one of those guys on the debate, they were like, what's your top issue? And he's like, my top issue is repealing fracking regulations. We need to be able to frack, and the American people and the American middle class are demanding that we repeal fracking regulations. See, that's that bullshit that happens. We shouldn't be concerned, you, me, we shouldn't be concerned with fracking regulations. You know who that's the problem of? Energy companies and their high-priced K Street attorneys. That's not something that middle America needs to be worried about. And something occurred at some point where we stopped paying attention to what was happening across the street. We started being entirely manipulated by, well, there you go again, K Street. K Street is the street in Washington, D.C. where the lobbyists all work. That's where everything... What? Local news. Did it happen when we stopped watching local news? Because I can remember as a kid watching local news, and it was a half hour of all of the stories that were literally happening in my town. Car accidents, buildings, the mayoral race, the governor's race, local sports. But it was the news that was happening around me. And it seemed like it was stuff that, well, at least more directly impacted me, right? At some point, we all stopped watching local news. And now it's like, you got people who live in the middle of Nebraska who they hate. It's like, who I hate? I'm from Nebraska. You know who I hate? I hate that congresswoman from Connecticut. Why did someone from Nebraska even know who a congresswoman from Connecticut is? Why would that even be a thing? That the person in Connecticut, their votes, and they only advocate for people in Connecticut. You're in Nebraska. Why? Because we've all been ginned up and distracted from paying attention to the stuff that's happening in our own neighborhoods, because we're all upset about things that are happening in Washington, D.C., in politics and all of this stuff. Fracking regulations should not on any level be even the slightest concern to you, me, or anybody else that doesn't work in the energy sector, that doesn't run a fracking business. But when you get up on stage and you say, I'll tell you the one thing middle America is upset about, and that's these fracking regulations, that's gaslighting. Because of course middle America isn't upset about it. They don't even know about it. You're just telling them, and people are going, yeah, I guess I should be upset about it. And why do they feel that way? Because they feel a bit humiliated that they hadn't really considered this in the past. But now there's this guy on TV saying that everybody else says it's the number one issue. So fracking is now a big issue to me. That's how it happens. That's political manipulation. Stop it. Just be concentrating on who's running for congressman in your neighborhood, your local school board. Get involved in that. We got to stop with this national stuff, man. Ugh. And that's kind of what I think Oliver Anthony is getting at. We need to get back to being friends. We need to stop. And you know what? I have sort of begun. I'm not going to say doing that. But I mean, over the last couple of years, I've let a lot of things go, a lot of things that would be a deal breaker for me to even like someone. Like, oh my God, really? Okay, can't talk to that dude anymore. I've let it all go because I realized that I know that I would hate to be defined by any one thing that I believe. And so I find something that a person believes, and now suddenly I hate that person because they think, whatever it is. God, that is just such a disservice, and it's got us all at each other's throats. All right, let's talk about Santana. Did you see this? Carlos Santana. Of course, I am doing my imitation of Cheech from one of the Cheech and Chong movies. I don't remember which one, but it was the one where he was really into Santana. Carlos Santana. Okay. Carlos Santana got himself in a little bit of trouble, a little bit of hot water, and he immediately was like, whoa, sorry, man. Why are people just offering their why are people? Okay, so if I do it, it's because I'm a streamer. Like I'm a dude, I'm streaming, I'm talking about current events. This is kind of what I do. It's what you expected from me. Why is Carlos Santana stopping a concert to talk about transgender people? What's going on with you, Carlos? What? Carlos Santana says transgender people should stay in the closet. What? Carlos, why did you have to go? You're like 80. Why did you go there? What is it? And I'll tell you something else. He just like suddenly turned into the guy screaming at the kids for riding their BMX bikes across his lawn. He says, I want to honor and respect. Okay, I think this is his apology. I want to honor and yeah. So why would you lead with his apology? What? Well, here's what he said. I want to honor and respect all persons' ideals and beliefs, whether they are LGBTQ or not, he said in a statement to Billboard. All right, here's the story on Santana. Let's see here. A clip began circulating online of Carlos Santana performing in Atlantic City, New Jersey in July, where the star stopped during his show to share his thoughts on the transgender experience. When God made... All right, here's what he said. All right, now this is Carlos Santana. These are quotes. This ain't me. When God made you and me, before we came out of the womb, you know who you are and what you are, he said. Later on, when you grow out of it, you see things and you start believing that you could be something that sounds good, but you know it ain't right. All right, kind of cryptic. I see nothing terrible so far, though. The guitarist then took his comments a step further. Uh-oh, here we go. Buckle up. Making a commonly disputed claim that there are only two genders. Okay, making a commonly disputed claim that there are only two genders. All right, no lies there. Sadly, that is true. It is commonly disputed lately. It is commonly disputed lately that there are only two genders. Wait. But even trans people say there's two genders. Like, they're not like transitioning into a third gender, are they? Is androgyny? Is that is that going to be a thing? Is that where people are going to stop in the middle? Oh, that'll be it. That's the next. Maybe it's already happening. Maybe. Yeah, because androgyny is a thing. Hey, remember when androgyny used to just be comedy? Hell, I remember when Men in Dresses used to just be comedy. Androgyny used to be a comedy. Remember Pat? Remember Pat on Saturday Night Live? Hysterical. What is she? I don't know. It's hysterical. We were awful people back then. And the people of today would have taken those people and put them in gas ovens and killed them, because the people of today are righteous. Santana also gave a shout out to comedian Dave Chappelle. Oh, he's doubling down. Santana was drinking before this concert in Atlantic City. He had a couple. He's a little loose. He's feeling good. He's an old guy, probably a little Santana, you know what I mean? Probably a little bit stoned. Let's see here. Come on, you son of a... Santana also gave a shout out to comedian Dave Chappelle, who has also been criticized in recent years for making anti-trans comments. He's never made an anti-trans comment. I demand, show me the text. Show me the words and the sentences that he said that are anti-trans. He made some comments about a specific person who he didn't like, who is also trans. He wasn't talking about all people. Oh, Jesus. You can't, if you make fun of one trans, you're making fun of them all. No, that's not how it works, because you know what? There are probably some people who are trans who are assholes. And in spite of the fact that they're trans, just because you're trans doesn't mean you can't be an asshole. And I cannot like the asshole and be completely indifferent about the trans part. And that's kind of the point of what Dave Chappelle was saying, but whatever. Hey, history is going to write that he was an anti-trans bigot who went on and on. Certainly if Adam Rayner writes a history book, that's what it'll say. All right, just kidding now. Let's see. Okay, so anyway, he got up on stage. He then apologized. He sobered up. They were like, you can't say that. Trans people love you. I don't know, do they? In a statement provided to Billboard, Santana clarified his respect for individuals' opinions without specifically walking his comments back. Here's my personal goal, he says, that I strive to achieve every day. I want to honor and respect all persons' ideals and beliefs, whether they are LGBTQ or not, Santana wrote. This is the planet of free will, and we have all been given this gift. I will now pursue this goal to be happy and to have fun, and for everyone to believe what they want. And oh yeah, this is kind of one of them half-assed apologies, because he's an old man with a lot of money, and that's called having FU money. And this is him just going, yeah, I'm not going to grovel, but whatever. All right, if you were offended by what I just said, I do apologize. It was that kind of a... Not, I'm sorry for offending you. I'm sorry for being such a callous individual that I didn't consider the people's feelings whom I was interacting with. No, not that. I'm sorry that you're such a pussy that you can't take what I said without being a bitch about it. That's the apology. That's a good apology. That translates to, I want to apologize that your feelings were hurt, right? Isn't that it? I want to apologize that you felt bad. I want to apologize that whatever. Anyway. All right, there you have it. There's Carlos Santana, but not to be outdone by Carlos Santana today. We had another classic rocker who was making news for his comments on trans and all that kind of stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Alice Cooper. That's right. Another one of these like 80-year-old, rock guys who are having difficulty with the ways of the new world. Hey, I know, man, these guys are 20, 25, 30 years older than me, and I'm having a hard time with the new world. I'm going to make it, though. I'm going to be fine. We're going to be good. Alice Cooper calls gender-affirming care for trans kids a fad and condemns the whole woke thing. Yeah, you know what? That's terrible, because whatever the intentions were initially about woke, whatever that word was supposed to mean, whatever it was supposed to connote about being, caring and thoughtful and actually, sticking up for the little guy, if that was in fact the original agenda of it and what I thought that it was kind of all about, It doesn't matter if that's still what it's about, and most of the people who describe themselves as that way, it's been rebranded, folks. It has been rebranded. Woo! Woke is a bad thing, even though it's probably really not. I mean, but woke is a bad thing in this world. You want to be woke? Woo! Go woke, go broke. That whole thing. So, Alice Cooper is kind of chiming in on it. Let's see what Alice Cooper had to say. Alice Cooper becomes the latest shock rocker to share his distaste for gender-affirming care after Dee Snider and Paul Stanley shared similar views. Let's see here. While he may be best known as one of the gender-bending faces of the shock rock movement, Alice Cooper revealed that he's not in favor of real gender-affirming care. Okay. Again, why? Why is Alice Cooper? Is he stopping a concert to go, hey, man, I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page about gender-affirming care. How is this? Again, do you see? Why is Alice Cooper? Why is Carlos Santana stopping a concert to go, hey, let me tell you my thoughts on LGBT? Because we've all been manipulated to stop, we've all been manipulated by others to think that everything is that's not an issue. It's not a real issue. It's not a real issue. It's one that people tend to keep bringing up because, and I'll tell you why, because it's a weird one, because it is an odd one. It is an interesting one. It's not, it's not, you can't burn the flag. That's boring. Burning the flag is boring. But, chicks with dicks, that's, that's interesting. That's going to sell. That's going to get some clicks. So I get it. It's a good distraction. It is a great distraction. Not important, not even remotely important. But, the distraction being shared by Alice Cooper now. He says, I find it wrong that when you've got a 6-year-old kid who has no idea, he just wants to play. And you're confusing him, telling him, yeah, you're a boy, but you could be a girl if you want to be, he said. I mean, if you identify as a tree, I'm going, come on, what are we in, a Kurt Vonnegut novel? It's so absurd that it's... All right, so that's him. He's an old man. He's going, I don't get it and I don't like it. That's what he's doing. Let's read it again. Here's what Alice Cooper says. I find it wrong when you've got a 6-year-old kid who has no idea. He just wants to go play. And you're confusing him, telling him, yeah, you're a boy, but you could be a girl if you want to be. All right, stop. End right there. Let me focus on that. What is that narrative? What is that narrative? I know a bunch of people with kids. I have never come across that narrative being a real thing in the real world. I mean, I've heard it used as an example. You've got these parents in California, and they've got little boys, and they're telling the little boys, you can be a little girl if you want. What, like one weirdo did that? I mean, is this really a thing? My point is this. Is that really a thing that's happening? Like, I don't know anybody like that. I'm pretty sure that every kid I know, every toddler I know, they're all like, yeah, it's my daughter, it's my son. I don't know that that's a thing. I certainly don't know that it's a thing that it should, get large chunks of airtime on cable news. Okay, so I find it wrong when you've got a 6-year-old. And by the way, for the record, as do I, completely agree. If that is a thing, if it is a thing in this country where we are talking about thousands of young families out there, they're all saying to their kids, I know you're a boy and you have a penis, but if you want to be a girl, maybe you could be a girl. Here, let's go see Dr. Whatever. He's going to give you a shot, because I think little Noah actually wants to be a little Noreen. I don't know that that is really happening. And if it is, I agree with Alice Cooper. That would be a terrible thing. Like I heard somebody, one of those crazy people on the debate goes, there are 20 states where you can have an abortion right up until the moment of birth. Absolutely 100%, not even remotely true. But he said it. He said it on the debate. Nobody checked him on it. Why? Because he was speaking to the audience that has already heard that lie a whole bunch of times, and they just think it's real. So it's, what do they call it? Grist for the mill. But I'm sitting there listening. I'm like, he said it, and I went, that's That's not true. Like, what state allows an abortion like in the middle of the birth process? What? No, 20 of them, no less. No. Anyway, we're lied to all the time. And I just don't think that's a real thing. You know, maybe there's a couple of weird families in California, right, that are doing this. They're like, we think a 6-year-old should be able to choose their gender instead of having it assigned at birth by a doctor. Or you mean by God, if you believe that, because, you know, but maybe there's like, you know, some families in places like California that are doing that. But I got news for you. There was a family like that doing that in 1940 in California. That's not that this is happening. There's always been weird families. There's always been weird people having weird kids, doing weird things and raising them in a weird environment. My God, I'm Gen X. About an eighth of our population was raised in a hippie commune. There are people who are actually taking the children out of school and making them live in a tent community, and they milk goats. Yeah, that was a thing like between 1967 and 1975. Bunch of kids spent 8 years in a freaking hippie commune. Parents have always been weird. So, but my question is this is such a big issue about, you know, parents and you know, these parents are turning their children into... Alice Cooper finds it wrong. I also find it wrong. If it is in fact a thing, I just don't believe it's a thing. I believe it may have occurred in a couple of very small instances. All right, let's move on. We're done with these rock stars. We're done with them. Come on, here we go. Next one. Let's see. No. Come on, there's got to be some fun stuff. I don't want to go. It's too late at night, right? What are we doing? We're running out of time. Drew Barrymore, she's got a stalker, and he was arrested, and apparently that's good for her. I saw this headline and I thought to myself, who's stalking Drew Barrymore? What? Like stalking Shannon Doherty. You know, right? It's like, really? Drew Barrymore still has stalkers? Good for her. There's a wolf man. Apparently there is a naked wolf man living in the mountains there in Germany. Should we learn about him? Why not? Naked wolf man spotted by hikers in German mountains. Let's see. Hikers captured a bone-chilling photo of a mysterious naked wolf man who officials believe has lived in the wild for at least 5 years. Okay, so it's just a homeless guy. It's just a homeless guy who hasn't shaved in like 5 years, and he's living in the woods. And now the New York Post writes there's a wolf man. You mean he's got long hair and a beard and probably long fingernails and stuff because he's like, you know, living off the grid in the woods. He's got 5.6 million clicks. It's a wealth man. What's the other? You know, the real headline is homeless man seen by tourists in German forest. That doesn't get clicks. Wolfman. All right, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing the Wolfman thing. Like, I'm not going to read it unless there's like, you know, did you dismember goats? Like, are there slaughtered goats and our local farmers, you know, staying up all night with shotguns? Then get back to me with the Wolfman story. Until then, it's just a homeless guy. Jamie Foxx is trending. This is an interesting story about Jamie Foxx. We've been covering Jamie Foxx because we all love Jamie Foxx. And if we don't love Jamie Foxx, I don't want to know you. Jamie Foxx seems like a good guy. He seems like a really good guy. And something very serious happened to Jamie Foxx. And we still don't know what it is. And he's still not out of danger. However, he did take to Instagram today. Apparently, it's a big deal because Jamie Foxx did his first Instagram post where he seems to be a bit more Jamie Foxxy. You know, apparently he was in a tuxedo and he was laying on a sports car and it was basically like an I'm back kind of thing. I could show it to you, but I forgot my Instagram password. And when I tried to pull it up earlier, I was embarrassed. And God, I can't believe I can't remember passwords. So here's the thing, though. Let me read you this story. Because I'm going to read between the lines because, you know, this is what publicists do. We haven't heard an update on Jamie Foxx in a while. So what a publicist, if they were working for Jamie Foxx, what they might do is they might say, you know, we need a story. We need to just, we don't want to talk about what they want to ask us about. So we have to control the narrative. So let's do this, Jamie. Let's pretend like it's a big deal that you're doing your first Instagram post, and we'll put it out and we'll say, Jamie's feeling better. Look at him. And then Jamie says stuff like, big things coming in 2023. You know, he's very excited about it and all that. And then people go, Jamie's back. You guys, Jamie ain't back. Jamie ain't back. Jamie is still at the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab in Chicago, which is like the world's foremost center for brain and stroke rehabilitation. You don't go to this place. Now, I know he's a big time celebrity, you know, so, you know, maybe he gets special treatment. But I mean, this is like, you know, a president gets shot in the head, right? And they got to put his head back together. Seriously, it's a very... Here, let me try this. Let me just see, because Google is always good with this. What does Google say? And I'll tell you why I'm saying this, why I'm sort of getting into this. Shirley Ryan.
According to the Magnificent Mile, the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, formerly the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago, is the global leader in physical medicine and rehabilitation for adults and children with the most severe, complex conditions, from traumatic brain and spinal cord injury to stroke, amputation, and cancer-related impairment.
Okay, so that's where Jamie Foxx has been since April. He's been in the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab for 4 or 5 months. I think it's clear. I mean, I think it's because I know I had a friend who was there. I had a friend who had brain damage, and he was there for a while, and I visited him a couple times. That's why I know what this place is. He's been there since April, and I think it's a stroke. I think Jamie Foxx had a stroke, or maybe he had an aneurysm. And they caught it, you know, because most people, they die of an aneurysm because they go, oh my God, a headache. I got to take a nap. And they take a nap and they die. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, here's the story. This is, I'll read you the word. I think this is, let's go through, I'll read between the lines and I'll tell you what I think some of this stuff really means. Jamie Foxx teases big things in cryptic Instagram post months after mysterious medical emergency. The Hollywood star was looking better than ever in his latest social media post after being rushed to hospital just a few months ago. I love that. This must be from an English paper. I love how they talk. They never go to the hospital. It's not the hospital. It's hospital. Like they don't go to the hospital. You're not in the hospital. You're are you in hospital? It's like in hospital. Don't they also do that with and don't you go? You're at university. You're not in college or going to college. You're at university. Anyway, I like that. The Hollywood star was looking better than ever in his latest social media post after being rushed to hospital just a few months ago. Just a few months ago. It's April. It's been. Jamie Foxx is back on Instagram with a dapper snap after his medical emergency in April. The Spider-Man No Way Home star. I hate when they do that. I hate when they cherry pick your filmography to sort of remind people of who you are. Like who's reading this going, who's Jamie Foxx? I can't picture Jamie Foxx. Oh yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home. That's where I know. Nobody knows Jamie Foxx from that first. Couldn't have gone with Ray. Couldn't have gone, you know what I mean? Any given Sunday. Willie Beeman. The Spider-Man No Way Home star donned a black tuxedo and sat on top of a golden sports car for the triumphant social media comeback. He is reportedly still recovering at a physical rehabilitation facility in Chicago, but has been doing much better since his undisclosed health scare. All right, so let's go through this sentence again. He is reportedly still recovering at a physical rehabilitation facility in Chicago, but has been doing much better since his undisclosed health scare. How do you know? See, this, I always get pissed off at bad journalism. That's terrible journalism, but it's doing much better. Who are you again? Your byline says that you're just a reporter. You don't even know why he's in the hospital, and yet you're telling me that that's how I know a publicist was involved. Because the publicist who probably spoke to the person who put this story together was like, oh, he's great. Oh, everything's great. We got big things coming. We got major plans. Oh, you guys, You guys wait. You're going to be so excited. It's going to be so good, because that's the job of a publicist, to keep the narrative optimistic and happy and, good. It's all good news. It's never bad news, because bad news scares away sponsors, producers, and financiers and stuff like that. So that's what I think is going on here. There's no way this person can know he's doing much better. He's been in the Ability Lab for 5 months or whatever it is. Fox's latest post was a paid partnership with BetMGM. And he also teased some major new projects in the pipeline. Okay, this is also something that we should take note of. So he's not back on Instagram to celebrate he's feeling better and, hey, did you miss me? He's back on Instagram because he's being paid by BetMGM. Remember I was telling you about how legal sports betting has completely destroyed sports radio in Chicago? Stuff like this. BetMGM. BetMGM is like everywhere in Chicago. And I'm wondering if him being at the Ability Lab, if somehow he didn't get hooked up with them, because all of a sudden he's doing Instagram posts brought to you by BetMGM. He's being paid by them, which makes me wonder, why is Jamie Foxx needing to get, what's going on? Is he not going to be able to work anymore? Like, is he that's a bit strange to me, that they tagged that his post, his return to Instagram, was really just a paid partnership with BetMGM Grant. Fox's latest post was a paid partnership with BetMGM, and he also teased some major new projects in the pipeline. So he's cashing that check for getting on Instagram, because BetMGM knows that when he pops back up, a lot of people are going to see it. And so he's like, hey, it's Jamie, I'm back. Thanks to my friends at BetMGM. I got big things coming. That's it. That's not real. That's some bullshit. That's just him getting a paycheck. And I wonder why he would need to do that. I don't know. I wonder if there's money issues there. I wonder if I am really concerned about Jamie Foxx. I don't know. I'll tell you this. This is weird. I am more concerned about Jamie Foxx than I am about Jeremy Renner. By far. I think Jeremy Renner is going to be fine. Jeremy Renner got cut in half. Well, not really. But basically, Jeremy Renner I thought was going to be dead. Jamie Foxx, we don't know anything about. Anything about what happened to him. All we know are that we can take a few context clues. Like, we know that he's had some sort of a brain injury because he's been living at the globe's foremost brain institute for 5 months. So we can pretty much know it's not a sprained ankle. All right, let's keep going. Let's see. What else do we have? Anything else do we want to talk about? Guys, you know what? It looks like I gave you about 2 hours. Thank you. I gave you 2 hours. Thank you to Cameron. This show was produced by Cameron. Cameron's our guy. Thank you to Cameron. He tips every month. That is so great. That's so great to know. Well, thank you. Thank you to Cameron. I don't know if any of y'all tipped the show today and produced Monday's show, but if you want to, you can drop a little something in the Venmo, a little something in the Cash App. Thank you very much, you guys. I appreciate it. This has been fun. Guess what I'm going to do? Well, I'll tell you what. You know what I'm going to do? You know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go watch that Urban Meyer, Florida docuseries. Woo, is that good? That is some good stuff. Yeah, that's it. We're done. I can't get my closing theme to play. You know how I like to play my John Hinckley. If we do this. There we go. All right. Much smaller crowd today, both in the chat room, and I don't know that I saw any new people hanging out with us today, so I don't know that this experiment was a rousing success, but I'm glad I came out. I'm glad I was able to. I need to do this. Schedule's going to be in flux. There's going to be some interruptions. I'm sorry. It's just the way things are. There are things going on here, but I will make them up with streams at non-traditional times. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to pugscast.com, hit the subscribe button there. That's the shortcut to the YouTube page. It'll let you know when new shows are being streamed or, that kind of stuff. So pugscast.com. You can also find all the old shows there. Journey, a multi and so just. All right, I gotta go. I'm gonna go have some ice cream. I'm gonna have ice cream. You know what I'm gonna have? So the Kroger's I call it the Kroger. Nobody here calls it the Krogers, but I call it the Krogers because I grew up in Chicago where we have a food store called Jewel, and everybody calls it the Jewels. I'm going to the Jewels, right? There is no S, but for some reason everybody's like, oh, did you get these from Jewels? Right? So whenever I talk about Kroger, I call it Krogers. I just add the S. A little something I brought back from Chicago. I'm hoping the Texans pick up on it so far. Not so much luck. Anyway, Kroger's got the two like quarts. I don't know what they are. They're ice cream. You like the normal quarts of ice cream, not like the one little ones like the Ben and Jerry's or that. Not those. Those suck. Those are little. I always want 2 of those. You know, like the regular like quarts, a half quart. I don't know what it is. Anyway, half quart maybe it's 2 pints. I don't know, whatever. Kroger's got all summer long. They've had 2 of their Kroger brand ice creams for $5, $2.50 for a quart. So yeah, I do that. I do that. And the Kroger brand ice cream is really good. They've got this brookie cookie something that's really good. They also got like, chocolate nightmare death camp. Like they've got all these. Seriously, like the names are like ridiculous. Okay, there is no chocolate nightmare death camp, but I wouldn't put it past them. I think what I got down there is chocolate nighttime something. I don't know, some crazy. It's dark chocolate with pieces of chocolate with chocolate drizzle on it. Chocolate. So I got that. That was the one because remember it's 2 for $5. So I got that. We're just gonna call it chocolate Nazi death camp. That's what I got. I got chocolate Nazi death camp. That's so good. And then I went Rocky Road. Yeah. Rocky Road is ice cream that was like first popularized back in the 30s. And do you know how groundbreaking Rocky Road must have been? I mean, we're talking about people like, this has good vanilla. Oh, this lemon custard ice cream is delicious, Grandma. And then somebody laid Rocky Road on them. It was like the first one that had everything in it. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go watch University of Florida documentary. What's it called? Don't worry. Is it HBO Max that it's on? I think it might be HBO Max. There's no such thing as HBO Max anymore. I'm like a stupid old man. All right. Nope. It took me to HBO Max. And HBO Max is a dead page. I don't know what it's called. Anyone in the chat room know? Any of you guys in the chat room know what that new University of Florida Urban Meyer takedown is? It's really good. Let's see here. Oh, Jeff, don't do that, Jeff. Keep pushing stroke, and it could have been, but money is on being caused by a boost, and nobody's. Oh, stop it. Oh my God, stop it. Let's see here. I don't know what it's called. It doesn't matter. I was in my closing theme anyway. All right, I love you guys. I'll see you on Mondays. The best is yet to come. Thank you to my guy Jeff for hanging out with us tonight. Who else do we got hanging out with us? We got Jeff went a little nuts in the chat room. My boy Barnes, Bonnie Styles, doing it Bonnie style. Leslie, as always. Stevie Ray. We had Mama Beller. We got Byron. We got Brady. We got you guys. Look at you. There you are. Now I see you. Al's here tonight. Chuck's here tonight. All right, guys. I'll see you. I'll see you Monday. All right, thanks. Bye. Yeah. The best is yet to come. I have found a different way, so baffling to some. I can smile a little now, things are going good. I always had to be on guard, that is understood. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. I am on a never-ending quest. I am on a never-ending quest.